Hi. So a few months ago, right, or actually a few years ago, I was really interested in the Sigma male cinema. Now, let me make this clear, okay? I do not, really care about the whole Sigma male thing, but like, I really wanted to see that what was there in these films that all these men were like so much influenced by them, right? Like you saw the clips of specific films again and again and again in these Sigma male edits, right? I just wanted to see what they were, right? Like, so I watched a bunch of them. There was Drive, American Psycho, Nightcrawler, Blade Runner 2049, and a few more. And I also saw Taxi Driver, right? And I think Taxi Driver was the last one I watched. And a lot of these have a lot of very similar qualities, right? You have your uh, protagonist who is basically a psychopath, who is just like a complete weirdo, and it's just how he influences and how he thinks about the world. And I could see how somebody would be like influenced by it. I also saw what is it called, Fight Club, yeah, during this phase. And when I watched, when I finally sat down to watch Taxi Driver, I was thoroughly disappointed, right? Because what Taxi Driver is completely different from all of those films, yet it is grouped among them for some reason, right? Like, I watched Joker before Taxi Driver, and I remember when it came out, a lot of people were talking about how Joker is essentially just a clone of Taxi Driver. So I was interested in it, and I was like, okay, let's check out what Taxi Driver is. And what I see is a film that is completely different than all of these other Sigma male movies in terms of its tones and its settings and its thoughts and its, well, essentially stakes, right? In Taxi Driver, not a lot of stuff really happens if you think about it, right? Like, it's just a guy who, like, does stuff and technically lives kind of a mundane life if you think about it. And of course, if you compare this to stuff like Drive or like Nightcrawler or like Prisoners, like you would think that okay, this is relatively boring. And so the set of expectations I had for Taxi Driver was like, it was not matched, right? But the second time I watched this movie, because there was something in this that like I felt like I needed to watch again. um, the second time I watched this, it became one of my favorite movies of all time, right? And I wanted to talk about why that is. Um, so you see, if you don't know what Taxi Driver is, it's a movie about a guy, okay, played by Robert De Niro, directed by Martin Scorsese. From like I think the 70s or the 80s, right? It's about a guy who is a marine, used to be a marine, has is now retired and has a lot of insomnia, and like he's just free in the city, so he just decides to do a taxi job at like night shift, right? And it's just how what happens in his life that kind of makes him full of hatred. And it is not like he becomes a serial killer or he like starts killing women for fun or like any insanely violent stuff or action stuff like that. Neither is it like somebody who you can look at and think, oh, this is a psychopath or this is a completely fictional character. Travis Bickle, I think his name was. Travis is a character that is horrifyingly realistic, honestly. Um, because the whole film is just his character study, right? Or as Quentin Tarantino put it, arguably one of the greatest character studies of all time, and I agree. It's just about him and how he experiences stuff, how he sees stuff, the things he says, the things he does, and how slowly he becomes radicalized and becomes full of hatred as a powerless, well, essentially a powerless individual, right? Because he's just a human being. He's no superhuman like Patrick Bateman. Which yeah, Patrick Bateman is kind of superhuman. Yeah. So, and it's the realisticness of it that really scared me, because this is not about a weird guy who is changing the world, but more like a delusional, powerless man who has been kicked down by society and is somehow thriving in that environment, right? It is scary because this can happen to, and this does happen to a lot of men around us, right? And like, you watch the movie, and of course, he does a few things. Like, he goes on dates and he talks a lot about his political opinions, and he thinks about, owning guns and like doing things like that. And um, you really get into why he is full of hatred, and you realize how a lot of the things he says and does are very much relatable to a modern individual, right? Like, he does not find love that easily, right? He does rot alone in his room a lot of the times, right? um, he does not have the dream life, and all of those things come together to make me, to give you this feeling of dread, honestly. Whenever I watch this film, I just cannot stop watching it. Like, honestly, it is very uneventful if you actually like think about what happens in the movie. But something about Taxi Driver is just mesmerizing. um, I was watching this analysis of this film, and in that analysis, the guy was talking about how Travis is full of bullshit, and like, he is a walking like hypocrisy, kind of a walking paradox, where the things he says are completely different from the things he does. He does not practice what he preaches. um, and the biggest example of this happens in the ending, where he basically pretends to be a protector of somebody, but when he does the actions that he does, you kind of realize that he's not, and he's really trying to justify his own value to himself by being a radical rebel of society. And I love the ending of this movie a lot because it is something. Okay, I don't know what it exactly is. Like, I can't really tell if it is not insanely unrealistic, but at the same time, it does not feel like it belongs there. It almost feels like a dream sequence to me a lot of the times. I'm not gonna get into spoilers though. uh, yeah, I just love this film, man. And I also love how much it influenced everything. Like, I feel like Seven was somewhat influenced by this, which also means Batman was somewhat influenced by this. I also feel like the Joker was influenced by this, and almost every character study which has internal monologues, I feel like it has been inspired by this movie. Robert De Niro is just fantastic, right? The way he acts makes you actually think that this is a real human being, bro. Um, I love the song, like the sound design, the trumpets, like just a wonderful film, man. And the hatred it fills inside of you, like like the film is pretty much about New York, right? I don't know the city, of course, but the way he talks about the city feels a lot like how I think about my own city, right? Or how some people think about my own city. Uh, it's very realistic, and that's what I really loved about it. If I had to rate it, I would easily give it like a 10 out of 10. Um, yeah, like every time I watch this movie, I love it a little bit even more because I seem to understand his character a lot. Like, yeah, he is a stupid asshole, but I get where he's coming from as a stupid asshole, right? Yeah, very good movie. I love Taxi Driver a lot. Yeah, that's all I really had to say. I guess, yeah, goodbye.